So it's really interesting because we already talked about pandemic anxiety and the anxiety that happens with being sheltered from the world and all of the things that kept us feeling safe and happy. But now a lot of people are going through post-pandemic anxiety. How do we open up again and feel safe in a world without these protections that we've said are necessary for keeping us safe? It's a really interesting thing, our brain. The part of our brain that deals with safety is primitive. It's very black or white, on or off. And so once we have paired a mask or washing our hands or staying away from people or staying sequestered with safety, it's really difficult and for many people, very overwhelming to switch that off. So I'm going to be talking about some ways to help you reintegrate into the world and how can we do it and dealing with that anxiety at the same time. The first thing that you want to remember is to do this at your own pace. You want to do things at the level and frequency that you feel comfortable. And this is really difficult. One is that this has become a political subject where there are two sides that are saying one way is right or another way is right. You know what is right for you. And if you go too fast or too slow to your own anxiety, it can spin out of control. And so there are some difficulties because some jobs may have certain things that they request of you that you may not be ready to do. Just because someone else expects something of you, it doesn't mean that you have to do it. Other people's expectations are not your obligations. Don't feel bad about taking whatever precautions you feel comfortable with. This is about your own safety and welfare. And so whether that is masking and washing your hands after every encounter, yes, some people may be offended by that, but it is not your job to make them happy. It is your job to make sure that you are safe and comfortable while you open up. And so take small steps, practice each day with the steps that you feel comfortable with, and listen to your own body on how you feel through those steps. I don't want you to have fear control you, but I also don't want to have everyone else's pressure be pushing you forward faster than you feel comfortable to be pushed. Sleep and exercise are really important during this time, especially if you're feeling anxious or worried about re-entering the world. If you're not getting enough sleep, your brain is not at its best. It's going to be hard to gather different sets of information and be able to use it. Plus, we haven't really been interacting with people face to face. And so if you are suddenly now having to deal with face-to-face conversations, you want to make sure that you've gotten that rest so that all of your brain's laundry is in the right bin, because that's what happens while we sleep. You're doing a lot of healing, but you're also putting all of the information into the proper bins so that you can gather it when you need. Exercise is also really important. What happens when you exercise is your body feels more fit and there's less chance that it will send as much adrenaline into your system when you're feeling anxious because it says, oh, you know what? You're really fit. You don't need me to send you a whole bunch of epinephrine. If you catch yourself spinning, thinking about something and you can't really get a handle of it, journal it out. And I know that takes work and effort, but sometimes seeing something on paper lessens its gravity in that, you know what, I can actually handle this. If I do this with adequate pacing and I think this through, I'll be able to deal with it. Because when you write something down, the part of your brain that's dealing with it is the analytical part of your brain. So when you're spinning, it's the more primitive part of your brain that we're dealing with. And so it isn't analytical. And actually when it's spinning enough, fast enough, it starts to shut down the working part of your memory. And so by journaling it out, you're kind of forcing, because journaling, the act of writing and reading, is a cognitive process. And so you have to have your cognitive center of your brain active and involved. It allows the cognitive part to help you analyze all of these very knee-jerk thoughts that you may have, or worries or stresses that you might be dealing with. So yes, it takes a certain amount of effort that we often don't want to do, but it can help us spin less quickly and analyze much better. It's also okay to just say no. If you're not ready to go to a party or to join back in the workforce, it's all right to say that you can't. Of course, You may not be able to afford not to do that, and so that puts you in a pressure of you might have to find a different job. But know that your own boundaries and consequences are okay for you to be able to enforce. You don't have to do what everyone else is doing. If you decide that you don't want to hug or you want to wash your hands more, someone may ask questions of you of why you're doing that, but you don't really owe an explanation. I just want to, or this is just what I do, or, they say you don't have to do that, and you say, I know. That's completely fine. The world is going to be different, and I think that that is completely reasonable, especially after going through what we did. Take it slow and remember to breathe. Take a moment, think it through. The world is starting back up, but you can start up at your own pace. And remember, you're not alone. There are so many people that I'm dealing with to help reintegrate back into the world. Remember that. Sometimes we feel alone, but you really aren't. Good luck with it. And if you have any great tips and techniques that you're using for reintegrating, please add them to the comments below. And hit subscribe.